Genghis Khan's savage genius, the Mongol Empire explained like never before. What happens when a father is poisoned, a boy is abandoned, and the only inheritance he receives is betrayal? In the unforgiving steppes of 12th century Mongolia, a young outcast named Temujin had every reason to disappear into history. Instead, he rewrote it. How did this orphan nomad rise to command the largest land empire the world has ever seen? Why did entire cities surrender at the mere rumor of his approach? What made Genghis Khan not just a conqueror, but a master of strategy, tolerance, and terrifying efficiency? From bone-stacked battlefields to diplomatic chess matches, from typhoon-cursed invasions to Venetian travel blogs, thanks Marco Polo. This is the story of a man who turned revenge into empire. And just when you think you've seen it all, he floods cities, builds capitals, and creates a dynasty that outlives his name. So grab your saddle, sharpen your curiosity, and ride with us into the storm. Because this isn't just history. It's the origin story of power itself. Imagine the Mongolian steppe in the late 12th century. A vast, windswept land where the grass is tough, the horses are tougher, and the people are basically born ready to fight. The tribes here, Tatars, Karaites, Naimans, and Mongols, were like rival biker gangs with yurts instead of leather jackets. They had no written language, no bureaucracy, and no chill. They worshipped Tengri, the sky god, which makes sense when your roof is literally the heavens. Their shamans, called Beki, were the local doctors, therapists, and ghost whisperers, though their medical success rate was somewhere between herbal placebo and oops, he died. Now, thanks to a milder climate, livestock were thriving. More food meant fewer men needed to herd, and more men available to do what nomads do best: raid, pillage, and occasionally get into turf wars over whose goat looked at whose sheep funny. Born around 1162, Temujin was the son of a Mongol noble who made the fatal mistake of trusting the Tatars. They poisoned him faster than you can say bad dinner party, and Temujin was left with nothing but a family name and a chip on his shoulder the size of the Gobi Desert. His tribe ditched him, his allies ghosted him, and his wife, Berthe, got kidnapped. So what did Temujin do? He went full Liam Neeson, rescued her, and started building alliances like a medieval LinkedIn pro. He teamed up with the Karaites to crush the Tatars, revenge check, then turned on the Karaites, ambition double check. And by 1206 he had absorbed or annihilated every major tribe in the region. At a grand tribal meeting called a Kurultai, Temujin was crowned Genghis Khan, meaning universal ruler. Cue thunderclaps and ominous drumbeats. Now Genghis had two options: settle down, enjoy the steppe, maybe write poetry, conquer literally everything. He chose option 2. His first target, Western Xia, a kingdom in northwest China. In 1209, he flooded their fields, starved their people, and forced them to submit. Classic Genghis. Next up, the Jin dynasty, rulers of northern China. They had walls, big ones, but they weren't connected. Genghis looked at them and said, "Cute." He simply rode around them like a Mongol GPS rerouting traffic. By 1214, after a siege of Zhongdu, modern-day Beijing, the Jin emperor surrendered and fled south. Genghis took that personally. He sacked the city with help from Jin defectors who taught the Mongols how to siege like pros. But the Jin weren't fully defeated, so Genghis left a babysitter army behind and moved on. In 1218, Genghis sent a trade caravan to the Khwarezmian Empire, modern-day Iran and Central Asia. The Shah, apparently not a fan of diplomacy, accused the merchants of spying and executed them. Then he killed the Mongol ambassadors. Genghis Khan's response? Not a strongly worded letter. He launched a full-scale invasion that turned Khwarezm into a smoking crater of regret. Cities like Samarkand and Bukhara were razed. The Mongols stacked bones into pyramids and made rivers run red. It was less trade war and more apocalypse on horseback. Genghis, now mildly irritated, red, apocalyptic, decides that a lot of people need to die. He unleashes the full fury of the Mongol war machine. Cities are razed, rivers run red, and the bones of the slain are stacked into architectural statements. By 1227, Khwarezm is a smoldering memory. Genghis absorbs a chunk of it into his empire but doesn't overextend, because even the guy who invented scorched earth warfare knew when to chill. This pragmatism extended to his leadership style. Genghis didn't care if you were born in a yurt or a palace. If you could command troops and win battles, you were in. Case in point, Subutai. son of a blacksmith, who became one of the greatest generals in history. Basically, the Mongol HR department was way ahead of its time. Then, in 1227, Genghis dies. Cause of death? Still a mystery. Some say he fell off a horse, others whisper about a stab wound, and one legend involves a vengeful princess and a hidden dagger. Whatever the truth, the great Khan exits stage left, leaving behind the largest empire the world had ever seen. Succession in the Mongol Empire wasn't a simple next-in-line affair. It required a kurultai, a grand tribal council where nobles voted for the next great Khan. In 1229, Genghis's son Ogedei is chosen. Smooth transition, but the seeds of future drama are already sprouting. Ogedei builds Karakorum, the empire's first permanent capital, in 1235. Think of it as the Mongol version of Washington, D.C., but with more yurts and fewer lobbyists. He continues his father's legacy of conquest. In 1234, with help from the Song dynasty, yes, the Chinese helped the Mongols destroy other Chinese, Ogedei finishes off the Jin dynasty. Korea resists, as Korea does, but eventually gets subdued, sort of. It's like trying to put a lid on a boiling pot. Then Ogedei sends his nephew Batu Khan, with Subutai as his war buddy, to Europe. They blitz through Russia, Poland, and Hungary like a medieval tornado. By 1241, the road to Western Europe is wide open. Paris and Rome are basically shaking in their boots. But then, plot twist, Ogedei dies. Mongol nobles have to return home for another kurultai. Europe breathes a sigh of relief. The Mongols pause their conquest, not because they were defeated, but because they had to attend a family meeting. Ogedei's son Gyuk takes over after a 5-year regency. His reign is short, but he manages some gains in Anatolia. Then comes the succession crisis. Enter Mongol, cousin to Gyuk, who wins the throne in 1251 after a power struggle that includes purges, political maneuvering, and probably a few poisoned cups of fermented mare's milk. Mongol doesn't waste time. He sends his brother Hulagu to the southwest with one instruction: go break things. Hulagu obliges. In 1258, he sacks Baghdad, the heart of the Islamic world. Libraries burn, scholars perish, and the Tigris runs black with ink and blood. It's one of the most devastating events in medieval history. Meanwhile, Mongol is busy in China, tightening the noose around the Song dynasty. He also tries to invade Dai Viet, Vietnam, but the jungle says nope and the Mongols retreat. Then, in 1259, Mongol dies during a campaign. No heir named. Cue the next round of Mongol Game of Thrones. Two brothers step up, Kublai, who's already chilling in China, and Arik Bok, who's holding it down in Karakorum. Both declare themselves Great Khan. It's like two CEOs claiming the same company, except their board meetings involve cavalry charges. Kublai has the wealth of China and the support of Hulagu, who controls the Ilkhanate, Persia, and Mesopotamia. Arik Bok has backing from the Chagatai Khanate and the Golden Horde in Europe. By 1264, Kublai wins. Arik Bok is imprisoned and dies. But the damage is done. The Mongol Empire is now a patchwork of rival khanates. Unity? Gone. Cooperation? Rare. Passive-aggressive letters? Probably frequent. Kublai now rules a mostly Chinese empire. He realizes that Mongols are great at conquering, but terrible at paperwork. So he expands the Chinese bureaucracy, fills it with skilled foreigners because Mongols didn't do admin, and bars ethnic Chinese from top positions. Awkward, but effective. He promises not to mistreat the Chinese, and surprisingly, he keeps his word. His legal reforms are more lenient than the Song dynasties, and his religious policy is basically, worship whoever you want, just don't annoy me. Kublai becomes the founder of the Yuan dynasty, blending Mongol rule with Chinese tradition. But the empire is no longer united. The Golden Horde, Ilkhanate, Chagatai Khanate, and Yuan dynasty all do their own thing, occasionally waving at each other across battlefields. Kublai may have worn silk robes and issued imperial edicts, but deep down he was still a Mongol Khan. And Mongol Khans conquer things. So he looked across the sea to Japan and said, "Submit." Japan replied, "Nah." So Kublai sent an invasion fleet. Spoiler alert, it sank. Twice. In the 1280s, both Mongol invasions were obliterated by typhoons, what the Japanese called kamikaze or divine wind. Nature had better defense than any samurai. Korea, meanwhile, finally tapped out and submitted. That was nice. Then came Dai Viet, Vietnam. Kublai tried to conquer it. The jungle said no. He tried again. The jungle said still no. The Mongols were great on open plains, but in tropical forests, not so much. India? Also a no. Turns out elephants don't care how many horse archers you bring. While Kublai was busy failing at amphibious warfare, a curious Venetian named Marco Polo showed up. Thanks to the Pax Mongolica, a period of relative peace across the empire, Polo could travel from Italy to China without being robbed, stabbed, or eaten by wolves. He arrived at Kublai's court and was like, "Wow, this place slaps." Kublai welcomed artisans, scholars, and merchants from all over the known world. The Silk Road was booming. Trade flourished. Ideas flowed. And yes, this same route would later carry the Black Death to Europe. But in the 13th century, it was all silk and spices. Kublai used this influx of talent to run his empire. He expanded the bureaucracy, hired skilled foreigners, because Mongols weren't exactly known for their Excel spreadsheets, and promised the Chinese they wouldn't be mistreated. Surprisingly, he kept that promise. Despite all his success, Kublai couldn't keep the Mongol family from squabbling like contestants on a reality show. The Chagatai Khanate, led by Kaidu, was in open rebellion. The Golden Horde and the Ilkhanate were doing their own thing. Kublai was technically still the great Khan, but in practice he was just the boss of China. The Mongol Empire was now a patchwork of rival khanates, each with its own agenda. Unity? Gone. Tradition? Fading. Kublai ruled until his death in 1294, and after that, the empire began its slow decline. So what did the Mongols leave behind? Genghis Khan is remembered as the greatest conqueror in history, a man who turned tribal warfare into global domination. Kublai Khan is remembered as a tolerant, competent ruler who blended Mongol ferocity with Chinese sophistication. The four khanates, Yuan, Ilkhanate, Chagatai, and Golden Horde, eventually morphed into the cultures they had once conquered. The Yuan became Chinese, the Ilkhanate became Persian, the Golden Horde became Turkic Islamic, the Chagatai Khanate, a bit of everything. The Mongols, once nomads who lived in tents and worshipped the sky, had conquered the world, and then quietly faded into it. If you enjoyed this wild ride through history, betrayals, conquests, typhoons, and all, don't forget to show some love. Hit that subscribe button to join our tribe of history buffs. Smash the notification bell so you never miss a moment when we drop more epic tales from the past.